Now, in my last video, I provided a little dance just to express some excitement on the developer community stuff that they did on Stack Overflow, plus the actual YouTube channel that they released on YouTube there, which is pretty exciting, to be honest. So I'm still in the process of combing through some of that. But the thing is, a lot of people, I think, don't understand how important the developer community is actually when it comes to things like Palantir and what they do, and how it kind of takes the company forward, and why actually some of us are really excited for it. Okay, let's start off by saying this mostly. The developer community in general is really just there to help each other. One of the main biggest reasons actually for this entire community that's going to be important, by the way, is predominantly for the fact that they can gather feedback and it's going to be used to actually make the product better. That's the number one thing. I can't understate this enough. I'm going to get into some more like, ancillary facts down the road, but that is the number one reason why this is important, by the way. Also because stuff doesn't work generally, so you're going to need to generate this feedback for more than just like a few people. You need a broader base to build on. So like each company has its own like workforce, and there's like sales folks and marketing folks and all these other people, right? Think of each company as like sort of like a city. And since let's just talk in the Lord of the Rings terms, since we're talking like Palantir, right? Each company will be like its own city. They have like their own armies, right? So you have like your marketing army would be like, the elves who will provide long range or whatever. You have your humans as like your sales staff or whatever. And then you have your urukai, which are like some other part of the business. So maybe like let's just call them the project managers. Okay? But anyway, random off-topic thing. A lot of these like different kind of classes and a lot of the things like Lord of the Rings, StarCraft, they're all very similar, right? It's like Protoss, Zerg, Terran, almost, from like StarCraft, for instance. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. But out of all of these armies, right, the developer community, you know who they are in the Lord of the Rings? Take a big guess. It's none of these three that I mentioned. It's like the army of the dead. Okay, they're literally untouchable, but they're very obscure. They sit in the corner. They're just very very upset with everything. Developer communities are very upset usually. Okay, they're upset about a lot of stuff, very opinionated, but they sit in their corner, they do their thing, but when you poke the bear, it'll definitely hurt you. So, and I've seen this personally. I used to work at BlackBerry, and the talent flight that happened there to actually some of the favorite companies that you guys probably heard of, like Apple and Google and stuff, right? It's crazy. Like, it'll kill your business in a second, especially if you have anything to do with tech. Now, yeah, some of those analogies are probably bad, sorry. I don't always make tech analogies, but when I do, I make sure you don't understand them. I am the most interesting developer in the world. Okay, seriously, let's get back to it. The benefit of having this kind of developer community is actually the fact that most software, when it comes out of the box, doesn't work actually. It's very rare that it works out of the box very well. So what ends up happening is you need these developer communities to actually perform or provide a sort of medium where developers, people of higher technical talent than, say, for example, analysts or something, can actually post their questions of a technical ilk, and they'll be able to answer it somehow. Okay, in this case, it's actually important because Palantir themselves are on Stack Overflow answering these questions as support teams. Now, of course, they're going to back channel some of the stuff when it's proprietary, when it's a little bit more detailed, for instance, right? Because they don't want to expose this stuff on a free platform, especially because they don't have public certifications, or they don't have products that are available in the public market, like for us to download me and you. You have to be somewhat into the companies that actually use Palantir for you to actually use it. So that's one thing to keep in mind here, okay? But just the fact that they're on Stack Overflow shows that, like, one important thing is other developers on Stack Overflow will be able to, they'll be aware that Palantir has joined this, right? So it's almost like an awareness thing. That's one. Now, secondly, on top of being an awareness thing, this potential, like, Foundry itself encompasses actually many different lines of businesses, right? It's not just like the data side of it, for instance, but the Stack Overflow part might pertain to more of the data side. Now, this is an important one because they're basically saying, instead of developers going straight to Palantir to go do it, why don't you just go to a public forum that everyone is aware of and uses quite frequently, and they can post their questions there. Now, that's one benefit. The second importance here is that this entire space is actually, to be honest, quite nascent. A lot of people make it seem like it's been around for a while, and it has, right? But the thing is, there's not that many skilled people that work in this space. There's quite a few, actually. Like, I mean, even for me, I've worked with big data a lot, and I still don't understand what's happening with it. So it's definitely a field that is growing, and as we grow into it, things like these kind of questions on Stack Overflow will definitely help grow that community more. And as people start getting technical, like right now, there are PhD levels and master's level folks that have a good grasp of this stuff, right? This happens a lot. Like, even in the previous software sort of era, it brings it down a little bit, right? So like in the beginning, it was pretty much just postgrad, masters, and those kind of people that did software engineering, and then drop down. Now pretty much anybody with a computer can do it, right? So eventually this data stuff will drop down as well, but right now it's very hard to hire for this kind of stuff. So putting it up on Stack Overflow gives the people that actually are familiar with this, and also just another point here, a lot of people that work in data science and data in general, they're not actually software people. So Stack Overflow has been largely guided as sort of like a software initiative, but this whole like data science like space that's coming out right now is making like those people are not software people, right? So they need to be aware of Stack Overflow, and many of them are, but many of them are not. Okay, my brother being one of them. So when I introduced them to Stack Overflow, things really help because a lot of technical stuff you have to actually derive from stuff that you do as a data scientist, for example. So it provides sort of like a spike where people are actually able to hire properly and you know, provide a thing that says, okay, look, we're out here, you know, I know it's hard to hire for this, but we're out here, you know, let us know, give us let us know what kind of questions we can answer and things like that. So awareness as well as like a hiring thing, in my opinion. I think I actually did get one, like Stack Overflow used to post jobs on the right hand side. I did get one from that, so you know, it definitely works. Another point, and this one is very understated, to be honest. A lot of people don't really sort of understand how this kind of stuff works, but let me explain something to you real quick. Developers in general, guys, are very lazy people, very lazy. Like, we want to put in the least amount of effort to get the most amount of return as a result, okay? So when we are doing any sort of programming or anything like that, it is made almost in a way to be as efficient as possible. Now, in some cases, it's better, obviously. Some people take their jobs very seriously, but you know, this kind of situation actually helps that, because what happens is, you know, if you have any kind of questions that come up, you actually go straight to Stack Overflow instead of, like, especially to look it up. A lot of times people use Stack Overflow just as sort of like a Google, right? Like as a search engine. They go in there and see what else, what other problems that they have been solved and things like that. So it's almost like a reference point. And nobody's really an expert at something unless they've done it for like countless amount of time. If this is like the 6th or 7th website that they've written, yeah, that makes sense. That's fine. I'm pretty sure they'll be able to do that, only if it's the same thing, right? But many times there's variations and you're not going to be an expert at it. So you need these external resources to actually use as a cross-reference point. The point where I would actually argue that if people are not using Stack Overflow as much as they probably should, I'm not saying you get everything. You're not like copying literal full code bases from Stack Overflow. You're just getting small reference points to help you out, especially because you run into small bugs. When you're writing a large piece of software, there's many small things that can go wrong and do actually go wrong. So you need, you know, things like Stack Overflow to see if anyone else is having these kind of problems. It's kind of a place where like a lot of different code bases are very disparate, okay? Like you can write, we're using Java, for example, you can write a multitude of things. It doesn't have to be a web app or, you know, like a desktop app or something. It can be a multitude of things, right? But the problems that you may have would actually be the same across these applications. So you're taking it one level down. Like what you would see as an end user is probably an app on a phone, right? But the reality is the actual underlying code base and underlying things are in some ways similar. And sometimes you have those, you know, problems, and it stretches across different kinds of apps and different kinds of verticals as well. Okay, so that's why it's important. So a lot of times people actually do need to be somewhat versed in this stuff and actually use Stack Overflow, things like this, to a good degree to actually be a good developer. It's not like it goes hand in hand. Anyway, hopefully that explains some parts of the whole developer community bit and why this might be important. Let me know in the comment section below if I didn't explain some of it or if I can go into further detail. I definitely can. I just gotta go and get some work done. Until then, I'll catch you guys in the next one. By the way, happy Valentine's Day. Peace. Perfect.